Another suspect running. We have him.
Here, Predator has him. Hey, Phoebe, yay!
The environment that we're going into is not a happy place.
If we don't catch them by surprise and get them into custody, they're more likely than not to fight us, either with firearms or with whatever else they have.
The threats that we're dealing with are just constantly evolving all the time.
And yet we're tasked to go in and take them out.
And if you're not constantly training and improving yourself, you're going to put yourself and others at risk.
I look at it this way. If they're mice and I'm a cat and my job is to chase mice, and I'm going to chase mice until I'm dead.
In June of 2012, our Life of Duty Patriot Profile crew released a documentary called Reclamation, The Battle for Terra Firma. This documentary shared the amazing work being conducted by California Fish and Wildlife and law enforcement agencies fighting to reclaim land and protect wildlife and citizens from ruthless cartels and illegal drug cultivators operating in California. 4 years later, the war with marijuana trespass growers and cartel members is still raging.
People don't understand the toll that it takes on public lands. It's your land. You pay taxes on it, and yet they go out there and they destroy it to reap a profit from it.
We return to witness the progress being made at the invitation to join the team on an actual raid and see firsthand the uphill battle being waged.
Our marijuana enforcement team, it's come a long way from us really just assisting other agencies to us finally having our own team.
We were told to build a full-time team, the first of its kind in over 150 years of this agency's history.
What began as a multi-agency task force and collaborative effort between Fish and Wildlife and the Santa Clara Sheriff's Office, and supported by other agencies, became a standalone tactical team within Fish and Wildlife in the state of California by mid-2013.
We're no longer doing standard patrol, doing the traditional game warden work. We are strictly working under the special operations umbrella within the agency with no district boundaries. So we could go anywhere in the state that we needed to work. We could work with whatever agency, whatever other game wardens in our department we needed to work with. And it's been really, really positive and overwhelmingly successful since we started that.
While those they are battling illegally cultivate and distribute marijuana, the battle isn't against marijuana, illegal aliens, or even the discussion on the pros or cons of marijuana legalization.
There is a big misconception about what we're doing, fighting marijuana. I mean, we're combating these illegal cartel grows in the forest, but the marijuana plant itself is really just a small part of that.
The battle against those perpetrating these crimes is about poisoning streams with chemicals and pesticides so dangerous it's killing animals, fish, and other aquatic species for miles downstream.
It's just a massacre of our natural resources.
We were finding out that our cartel grower, the trespass growers in our wildlands, were stealing so much of the water in a state that's already in its most severe drought, it was exacerbating the drought. And when we realized that between 2013 and 2014, almost 1.3 billion gallons of water were stolen by these trespass growers all throughout California in our most severe drought, that really got a lot of attention.
And if we have multiple suspects like last time, and the dog overcomes somebody, I need somebody right on my six.
Okay.
Their team has incorporated the use of K9s to track and subdue violent cartel members.
My dog Phoebe's had about 114 bites right now. That's physical apprehensions, not counting tracks and in-face arrests. If for whatever reason I'm incapacitated or unable to take the dog off the bite, our team especially is trained to remove the dog from the bite. But everybody else who doesn't, if you happen to be on it, it's your baby.
We are very fortunate to have one of the best dogs in California, if not the country. Phoebe and her K9 handler are the most effective dog we have in California at apprehending these cartel trespass growers.
We work with these dogs 24/7. My dog comes home with me at night. She's part of my family. And over the years, I've learned to read her, and she's learned to read me. And so as a K9 handler, that's our job.
Learning to read your dog is critical to mission success. The dog is the best early warning system, the team has.
One time we were sitting in a kitchen area in a hooch, and the dog alerted. I saw a guy coming to me. All I could see was his upper torso. It was in thick manzanita. I announced, "Hey, police, get on the ground. The dog's going to bite you." The guy took off. I sent the dog. I started just fast as I could, tunneling through the manzanita, crawling on all fours underneath it. I came around this thick brush thicket, and I see the front muzzle of an AR-15. And I went, oh, great. As I was drawing my gun out, I thought, okay, I got to engage immediately from the holster, push the gun out, and move laterally because he's already going to get me. And right about that time, the dog, I just saw her come off from the right through the manzanita and just literally tackled him to the ground. The force of impact just knocked him to the ground. And I didn't have to shoot the guy because of that.
Phoebe has saved my life and the lives of my brother team members 20, 30 times over again on multiple missions. Too many to count in the last 3 years that we've been operating as a family unit.
I mean, how do you put a dollar figure on that? I mean, that's it's saving those guys' life. It's saving our lives when the dog does stuff like that. So I have the utmost respect for my dog and love her.
When canines came into the game, they completely changed the game for us from an officer safety standpoint.
Norris and his team clearly understand the risk associated with raiding and thwarting these operations.
High .9mm.
And now they're even stabbing and trying to counterattack our canines.
One of the dogs from another team that John, Brian, and others have worked with several times was brutally attacked by a man wielding a knife.
We've had multiple incidences where they've fought us. We've had one of my partner warden officers shot through both legs way back in 2005 because they didn't want to give a grow up.
It's big money. Some of these grows, you're talking anywhere from $1 million to $20-30 million. A man's life's not worth $20 nowadays.
The armed resistance, shootouts, and violence they encounter during missions makes them extremely vigilant.
It adds an added element of preparation that we need to face. It also adds an element of equipment and tactical training needed to take these guys into custody safely and not get our team members hurt or our dogs hurt or even worse, killed.
Our team is good because we train a lot.
Let's do it! Peel up, peel up, peel up!
This team trains more than any other team in the agency because we need to.
It's a grind. It's a lot of hard work.
On the ground!
We don't just do weapon shooting, movement and stalking, canine deployments, indoor entry, and sniper drills. We do some physical training.
And training gets old. Anybody that does a lot of training, sooner or later, you're just like, man, I'm tired of training.
The last thing we want on a mission is for our guys to be so fatigued and tired that they lose awareness and we miss seeing a punji pit, another booby trap, or even worse, that bad guy with the AK-47 in the bushes.
So, every bit of effort that you put into that training, it pays dividends when you're out there working hard.
When we first discover a grow or get a tip on a grow, if we don't discover it ourselves, we have to do a safe workup on it.
So we just keep going through these surveillance pictures and see if we picked anything up.
We have to identify it, look at trails going into it, look at the terrain around it, determine if it's a live-in camp or maybe just a walk-in camp where people aren't actually living in it.
Yeah, and several weeks ago when these guys came in, bringing supplies, right? That guy, is that a holster on his hip?
Yeah, the surveillance pictures show that one guy there with it looks like a pistol holstered on his hip, and then the other guys are in there just lugging like big heavy sea bags full of supplies into there. So once we get in there and start hunting it out, I think we're going to find him in there.
Yeah, it's a live-in for sure.
The hardest part's going to be the last part, which is
the planning for each raid is extensive. Routes, tactics, contingencies, and even medical extractions are all discussed.
if we're going to go out the back meadow right here, up onto the road, it's about a 15-minute hike over to the trailhead. So from there, it's probably another, 15 minutes in there?
Yeah, to get to the meadow and beyond it.
So we'll just take our time, go nice and slow, and just kind of hunt this complex out.
Our team really specializes in apprehension, stealth, and stalking tactics of how to catch these guys safely.
We're only like 55 yards from the kitchen, the active kitchen we found a couple weeks weeks ago. But the trail is so brushy and so overgrown, we gotta crawl under it literally like in tunnels. So we're taking small clippers to trim it out so we can make as little noise as possible passing through it. And we're gonna work through it just nice and slow, nice and quiet. Keep some cover for any ambushes and try to get to that kitchen undetected.
Sneaking up on these grows and camps during raids is conducted on foot, via patrol boats, and even by fast rope insertion from helicopters.
So every situation and every terrain scheme and every grow site has a different element that we have to kind of adjust for. And usually it takes quite a bit of time to put it together safely. We just did a case only a week and a half ago where we went in on kayaks and had to do a several mile paddle off of big boats after getting inserted to get up into a tight slough area before we could beach the boats and then bust our way as carefully and quietly as possible through tules and blackberries and big wooded vegetation banks on the edge of this delta slough to sneak into a grow, spend a solid 2 hours on the ground slowly stalking and set up ambushes for the armed growers within.
Don't move! Stay down!
Both suspects in custody.
These guys have found a spot that's got good water, that's made them millions of dollars. It's made the organization they work within or work for millions of dollars.
No resiste, amigo.
That'd been there 3 to 5 years. Those guys had gotten away with it. There's no way they wanted to let that one go, until we found it and we forced them to let it go.
Norris and his team not only face armed and dangerous men, but also the dangerous traps these men have laid for them. Traps designed to injure, maim, and even kill them, if possible.
Like punji pits that we started seeing a year and a half ago. When you step into it, those sharp spears of wood are designed to sever your leg, go up into your foot. They've got maybe toxics on them. They've got other pollutants, for infection. And that's what our team is trained to look for. That's what our canines are helping us find before we step into them. Very, very deadly, very potentially hazardous. And we're running across these in several grows.
Does it look lived in since we were here?
I don't know. That plant's not looking so hot.
Right. Might have been a while since they've been back. Maybe they've got a bigger kitchen at a camp.
Apprehensions during raids do not always happen. These growers acclimated to their environments have spent years in many cases, perfecting ways to not be seen or detected.
They do counter tracking. They weave brush in along their trails to promote, people stopping. They're smart. They know how to hide themselves just like a lion.
And they're so comfortable because they've been in it for so many months, living in it, knowing every sound, knowing every pitfall hazard that they've got on a trail.
Yeah, they're a tough adversary for sure.
Sometimes it's not safe for us to keep continually pursuing suspects where we burn up our entire day, get our guys fatigued, tired, making a mistake, getting hurt, when we still have poison plants to eradicate. And then we also have the environmental reclamation component to really protect our resources.
As Patriot Profiles revealed in our first visit with this team over 4 years ago, these enforcement officers are environmentalists at heart.
There's hundreds and hundreds of sites throughout the state of California. And this has been going on for, 30 years or more? And only in recent history have agencies started to do cleanups. In the past, it was always cut the plants, arrest bad guys, let's go. I'm not a trash collector. I just hook and book, and let's get out of here. Well, that's not the way we do business.
So we brought the reclamation or environmental cleanup component to arrest and apprehension, plan eradication and destruction, but part 3, kind of the 3-pronged approach that our agency prides ourselves on, is environmentally restoring the damage.
So we make every effort we can to clean up these sites. And if we can't do it that day, then we're scheduling reclamation details for later in the fall or in the spring to go do and clean it up later.
These banned toxics and chemicals that these guys are using on these plants are so toxic that they're hindering our operations. We've been through a majority of this grow. It's thousands of plants, and they're all sprayed and treated with an unknown chemical. And if we see this stuff on the plants or at the base of the plants, all kinds of safety protocol has to kick in. Usually they're not sprayed with anything that isn't that deadly. One of our operators on the team found that pink mixed liquid in there. I'm not going to touch because it's definitely a furdan or carbofuran based.
I think it's a quarter teaspoon will kill a human being. As recklessly as they handle this stuff, I can't believe we haven't found some of those guys poisoned out in the gardens before.
Maybe we can't reclamate because this stuff's in all the water, or it's on all the plants, or it's all throughout the camp. We've seen that many times. And that creates many more challenges to keep us safe, but also to make sure we can reclamate and clean up the woods for our public.
John Norris has spent his whole life in the backcountry enjoying all that nature has to offer. His love of wildlife makes every poisoning or poaching he encounters heart-wrenching.
We had a situation where a big sow black bear, a big mother black bear, walked into a grow site, had one of those cans full of the poison. She ingested it, needed a drink of water, and it was all toxically tainted, and within only a couple of minutes expired at the base of this big tree. She had a cub with her, a baby bear, who also ingested some of the poison, but got scared when this cub's mother expired, so she climbed up the tree, got stuck up in a V, and that's where this little cub expired. And that's only one example that we found, and we're not seeing all of it when we go in on these sites.
The same chemicals killing wildlife, however, make their way to streams, aquifers, and water reservoirs that provide drinking water for all residents.
I think the hardest part of what I do is throwing myself against the wall over and over and maybe not seeing much effect.
The job is not without frustration.
You know, we work our rumps off. My family doesn't see me. I heard I'm married and she's good looking, but I'd like to get home to see her. I mean, we're out there 16, 18 hours a day sometimes, busting it. You know, hit a grow a day every day for 3-4 weeks. And yet, you know, my buddy calls me and I think I'm making progress. And the hardest part for me is him calling me up on the phone and going, hey, we just did an overflight. We found 14 more.
It's hard to see the ongoing growing battle that at times feels like a never-ending vicious cycle. For every 2 steps forward, it feels as if they're taking 3 steps back.
Yeah, it's hard to measure your success. I mean, we catch a lot of people. We send a lot of people to prison. You know, the grows are back every year.
I want to catch people. I want to solve crime. I want to bust poachers, and I want to clean our forests and woods out so we have them back. And so that's hard. That's hard to see the enormity of the problem sometimes. But, you know, that's part of the deal. I mean, you just get out and make it happen.
One of many marijuana plots in this complex.
They only need to look at their stats over the last 3.5 years to validate that what they're doing matters immensely. From mid-2013, when the Met started, through December 2016, the stats of their eradication and reclamation tell an unbelievable story. In only 3.5 years, they have executed 583 missions. They have eradicated or destroyed 2.1 million poison-laced marijuana plants. They have confiscated 18 tons of marijuana, bagged, processed, and ready for distribution. They have captured and arrested 745 felony cartel members, enough to fill Alcatraz twice. They have seized 433 illegal firearms from cartel growers.
Our forte is still, and our emphasis is still, that environmental reclamation component. So we still reclamate almost every grow we go into that we raid that day. So our numbers in reclamation and environmental restoration have been very, very impressive over the years, and we still want to increase that. We're definitely not getting everything out there because there's so much of it in California.
They've removed 335 tons of waste, trash, and pollutants from grow sites, collected and removed 1.65 million feet, nearly 311 miles of black tubing used by cartel growers to steal water for irrigating their plants. They have collected 41 tons of highly toxic fertilizers, enough to kill or lethally poison 738 million people, or every person living in the United States, at least twice. They have destroyed 614 water-stealing dams, and have saved over 568 million gallons of water for California's drought-suffering citizens.
When we go into these DTO type grows, these cartel type grows,
this grow's massive.
I'd say, probably 10% of the people will, or 20% will honor that K9 announcement, and 80% of them don't.
We have a rifle on the ground. That's an illegal well diversion. Pump. Suspects on the run.
Go by me.
Do not move. Ian or Corey, stay with him.
Good girl. Good girl.
Go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. Another suspect running. We have him.
Here. Perimeter has him. Hey, yay. Here.
Well done, guys. Good job, Phoebe. Good job, B.
We are excited to be able to recognize the marijuana enforcement team from California Fish and Wildlife. The North Coast and the state of California owes a huge debt of gratitude to the men and women who stand with us here today.
Thank you, K9 Phebe, and may your retirement be full of rest and treats. And we thank you for being here today. We have a special resolution here for Phebe.
For all the progress being made, the war with marijuana trespass growers and cartel members continue in the California foothills, forest, and private lands. Thankfully, the California Fish and Wildlife Med operators are manning the front lines.
Ready, ready, ready.
We're very committed to doing it because we know it's one of the biggest resource damaging, wildlife killing problems going on in California.
So we just have to go slow. We don't get hung up with the backpack.
I just go out and do my job and keep, fighting the fight. And, somebody's got to do it. So it might as well be me.
The dog is not going to bite you.
Every one I hit and every couple of guys we arrest is, that many less on the market.
It's been an incredible privilege to be part of helping develop this team.
So what keeps me coming back is the people I work with. I mean, they're a good group of guys, and I enjoy it. So I'm going to keep doing it for as long as I can.
I love my job. I know I'm being productive at what I'm doing. I know I'm utilizing my dog in a way that's productive to save men's life, not only theirs, but ours. And I'll keep doing it until the wheels fall off.
If I was a bad guy out there doing what they're doing now, I'd be worried because we're good.
These warriors of the woods have dedicated themselves to protecting American lives, protecting America's environment, and protecting and preserving America's wildlife. For all you do, we say thank you for your service.